Hey, welcome back to our podcast, your go-to source for all things real estate and lifestyle in the heart of Fort Worth, Texas. I'm Jackson Christian Berry.
And I'm Jean Kristen Berry.
And together we're here to guide you through the vibrant world of Fort Worth and surrounding suburb living.
We believe in creating a community where everyone feels at home. And that's why we're committed to bringing you honest, expert advice in a fun and friendly way. From the bustling streets of downtown to the serene suburbs, we've got the scoop on what makes each area unique.
Each week we'll dive into the latest market trends, offer tips for both buyers and sellers, and share insider knowledge to help you make informed decisions. So whether you're a first-time home buyer, a seasoned investor, or just curious about some of the Fort Worth charming neighborhoods, you're in the right place. Let's jump into today's episode. Well, hey folks, and welcome back to Welcome Foam. Oh man,
wow.
Ruining it from the top. Welcome home, Fort Worth. So glad you've joined us again for this week. This is the best day of the month for me. I love this day. It's my favorite day. It is Market Update today.
Woo!
Get so excited, y'all. We're talking data, we're talking trends, we're talking what is happening in the DFW, particularly the Fort Worth side of that real estate market. Mm-hmm. So
love this.
It's just the best thing, y'all. This is first off, we're the only people that do something like this to this degree in these areas. So that's just cool to share this information with y'all as the consumers. It's very fun to do that. I think it's also just like, there's so much noise in real estate. There are so many people, and there's so many wives' tales or whatever they're called, the myths that are just passed through people that says, well, just do this. And it's like, no, it's just not how it works. And so it's just so fun to put data to it where we can see what actually is happening. And so this is just an absolute joy for me. So two starting off disclaimers I make every single episode. First off, this is for Tarrant, Johnson, a little bit of Parker, a little bit of Ellis, okay? The west side of Ellis, the east side of Parker. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about these numbers. As a result, if you were in Tarrant, these numbers may be a little higher. Tarrant tends to skew a little on the lower range of these. Johnson, probably closer to the higher range of this. So keep that in mind. And then besides that, real estate remains
Hyperlocal.
Oh, I love that we had that moment. That was awesome. You finished the sentence. That was so great. I was thinking that word, and you caught it. Real estate remains hyper local, which just means if you want to know what's happening with your home or the area that you want to buy in, you have to reach out to somebody like a real estate professional who can get this information for you. So those two things aside, let's jump in. We had a slight decrease in the month of March for a number of new listings that came on the market. So February capped out at 2,814 homes that came on the market in the month of February. And currently, now this will be a little higher because we missed about 4 days of inventory that will come on the market, but it's currently at 2,394, which is down 15% month over month and down 15% year over year. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Number of new listings still remains very low in these two environments.
Yeah, inventory is low.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes. So, well, and so inventory, talking about inventory specifically, inventory has actually risen specifically, still low for all times for sure, to your point. Yeah. But when it comes to the number of active listings that came on the market, so these are, didn't come on the market, excuse me. These are the ones that are just on the market. So the number of active listings that are on the market rose from the month of February from 5,235 to 5,637. So a slight increase.
Why do we think that's happening?
Just depends. You've got slight days on market increasing. You have demand factors that we'll get into at the end of this. We always do this kind of a supply side of the conversation, and then we'll get into demand side. So we'll talk about those things, the demand section. But it's spring seasonality, so a lot of that's what's going on too. We've officially hit March. There's an old, again, wives' tale, myth, whatever, that says people just list after spring break. And so we've officially had spring break. And so you've seen more inventory come on the market, not as much as February did, so maybe we haven't hit that officially just yet. But you just have more homes on the market. Homes are sitting a little longer than they have been. And so it's carry over a little bit of that is what's going on.
From the winter season.
From the winter seasons, from the month of February. Things like that. So that'd be my guess, of course. It's a trend that we're seeing, but that'd be my guess for that.
Sure.
So active listings are up 7% month over month. So there was a rise in active listings from the month of February to the month of March, and 32% up year over year.
Yeah.
Okay. So that means that there are more homes on the market today than there were last year, which is a big deal. 32%, that's huge, right?
That's
a big increase. Yeah. And so what that means is that I hope what this means for our market, for buyers everywhere, and for really sellers everywhere, because almost every seller is going to be a buyer. It hopefully means we hit the bottom of this inventory crash crisis that we kind of have right now, where we just have historically low homes on the market. Inventory is just low. Some people report that, I think we're 1.7 million homes underbuilt in the U.S. for our family. I don't know that underbuilt's really the way to describe that. I don't think the builders strategically were behind. The builders were just building for their demand levels they were receiving. I don't think it was a strategic move the builders were making or anything like that. I think it was just the fact that it didn't make sense for their business models to do something like that.
Sure, and financing and supply of the materials and some of those kinds of
Just all the things that affect building, exactly. So anyways, that's what's going on with active listings. When it comes to the number of closings that happen, number of sales, we are down 10% month for month. There were less sales in the month of March, and we're down 48% year over year. So pretty drastic.
So that probably helps that figure a lot
Exactly.
of what's still staying on the market.
Exactly.
Yeah, because our volume's down, our sales volume.
Just not as many closings have happened as a result. And so we'll talk about some of the reasons for that. But something that I've been tracking now since the last episode, which has been really interesting, is the amount of seller concessions. Out of that 1,517 closings, how many offered a seller contribution? So the sellers paid something towards the buyer's closing costs. 853 of those 1,517.
More than half.
We are at 77% of closings. Now, that ranges. So I have the range for you. That ranges from $4, which is hilarious. Why was that necessary?
Who paid $4?
Who was so heck bent on $4 more for their? I just want to know. I want to know the story there. And then the top of that being 79,000 in seller contributions. So that's kind of crazy. The average, just so you can know, is about 7,323 seller concessions out of that 77% of closings.
Which could be buy downs, could be inspection items.
Yes, exactly. It could be used a lot of different ways. It could be traditionally it's inspection items, or it was negotiated in the contract initially because they wanted to buy it as an incentive, as a reason to do it. So exactly.
That's gotta be way higher than last year.
It is insane. Yeah. We need to go. You're I'm gonna make the note. We need to go track that. We need to see. That's really interesting. We need to go see that for sure, because it'd be really. I just think that's insane. That is insane, y'all.
Yeah, which means for our buyers, y'all, there's some deals to be had out there.
Oh yeah. And just for sellers, I think it's just helpful to know the context. Like when I'm working with a first-time seller right now, and the conversations we've had around these are, a lot of the questions are, is this normal? Is this usual? And so this is really helpful data for somebody who's like, I don't want to give them money. And you never have to give them money, just so you know. Right. You never have to do anything you don't want to do. But it is nice to know that 77% of closings, you're not alone if you do. You are not alone at all. And where you range on that, if it's $500 towards the concessions, well, I mean, you're on the low end of that average, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, anytime there's decreased demand from buyers and increased inventory on the market, that's when you see these concessions start to really go up.
Yeah, exactly. So very interesting. I just think that's a fascinating statistic.
Fascinating.
It's just like, what in the world?
Yeah.
Because that's not in the. I don't think the average realtor really knows that.
Well,
that's not something that we track as realtors.
In 2021, do you think there were probably any concessions happening?
Oh my gosh, no, there couldn't have been.
They've been very
unless the house was in disarray.
Yeah, they've been very minor. Yeah, they've been a totally different market with the opposite direction of the buyers giving the concessions.
Because it was such a seller's market at that time. Yeah. Yes. All right. And so the average close price, now moving on to that, is down 3% month over month from $4,222 and $422,130 in the month of February was the average close price to $409,494.
Okay.
So down 3% month over month. It is up 0.7%, a very small amount year over year.
Okay.
So it is still increasing, but it's just been a very, very small amount.
Okay.
Yeah. So good to know. So now we talk absorption rate. So absorption rate, you've probably heard this number called days of, days of inventory, months of inventory. Excuse me, that's the phrase.
Month supply of inventory.
You've maybe heard this called that month. The 3 months of supply on the market, 4 months of supply. We track this a little different just because our software won't actually give us that correct metric, and so we actually have to do the manual work of figuring out that number. And so to absorption rate is how many homes are coming on the market and how many homes are going off the market. So it's the rate of that kind of absorption of homes into the consumers. So you do number of sales divided by number of actives, and for us, that gets us to 26%, okay? 20% or more is considered a seller's market because 26% of the inventory is moving, right? Now, 15% or less is a buyer's market, right? So that means that not a lot of homes are selling if it's less than 15%, and so the buyers have a lot of bidding power because there's less buyers at that point. So what that means is that we're still really close to a very even market. We're only 6% higher. I'm sure we need to go get these numbers, but 21 and 22, I'm sure we're very much like down into they had to be over 50%, I'm guessing.
Oh, for sure.
Because you were down to single digit like days on market for that stuff. So anyways, I think we're still very close to normal, but it is leaning sellers a little bit. Just keep that in mind.
And it's seasonal, so we'll see what happens as the season progresses.
Yes, totally. Yeah, we're on the cusp of the season. It's just happened. Nationally speaking, we had 100,000 more homes on the market this year than we did last year.
Okay.
And so inventory has kind of exploded in that way.
Yeah.
And so that kind of issues the spring is among us and happening. So we're seeing less of that for sure, since ours kind of went down in this market specifically. But it's very interesting.
Which may be special to us in the DFW
Exactly.
market.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So interest rates, this is one that I wanted to track this week specifically. Interest rates at the time of filming this are at 6.92%. That is down, excuse me, that's up. Sorry, they've got like arrows on this thing that I use to track this, and it's a little backwards. So 6.92%. A month ago, so month over month, it was 0.16 higher, so it has decreased.
Last year?
Yeah,
Okay.
last month. Has decreased 0.16, but last year it has increased 0.54. So we were closer to 6.4 last year, basically. So just to know that. And in that time frame, in the year time frame of those two things, we've had it hit 6.16 and gone all the way up to 8.03.
Yeah.
So pretty substantial differences that we've seen.
Absolutely.
It's pretty volatile, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
As an economy, as a industry, it's been very volatile in that way.
If we start getting down in the lower sixes, you may see a few refinances.
Yeah, totally.
From the 8% time.
Yeah, you definitely could.
Hey everyone, real quick before we get back to the show, if you're on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, we'd love to connect with you. We post a lot of content like this in case you miss an episode, along with more Fort Worth and surrounding suburb, local insights, and finds. You can find our team at the Christenberry Group on all social platforms, or you can connect with Jackson and I personally on our Facebook and our Instagram accounts. Just be prepared for lots of pictures of my grandson on either account. Now back to the show.
So we always like to track and have the conversation because now that we talked about interest rates, we talked about absorption rate, we're kind of entering into buyer side. So this is more demand specific. This is what's affecting, supply and demand curves, right? This is what's going to affect the demand side. So competition is part of that. Is it cheaper to rent or is it cheaper to buy? So it still remains probably cheaper to rent. Now, I want to highly recommend that you go check out our last episode we did for the month of February because we talk about what's it called? We talk about the, personal savings rate, where we go into detail about what folks actually do with the extra money they save. It's not put into an investment. Long story short, it's not put in an investment. And so if you are able to, real estate is an investment. It's a forced investment. You are paying paying a little more in your mortgage than you would in your rent, but it's going towards an investment versus it just going out the window.
Yeah, going towards something for you later.
Yeah, but so it is cheaper to rent right now. $2,700 is the average mortgage monthly payment for the mortgage at our average close price, which is $409,484 at 6.92% interest rate. That does not include interest and that does not include insurance and does not include taxes, which you can escrow into that if you decide to. And our average rental rate right now is $2,501, which is actually down 4.6% month over month, and down 2.3% year over year. So rents are actually following in our area, which is
interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Huh.
Yeah, there was a lot of multifamily that came online, so I think that's really affected.
We had a lot of building.
And this tracks.
Yeah.
This is specifically single family rental amounts, right? So this is just talking about single family. It's not talking about apartments. It's not talking about that kind of stuff. So I think that's what mainly affects that. The competition within the rental market itself has changed pretty dramatically.
Yeah,
so
makes sense.
Highly recommend, again, personal savings rate. Go check that out. It's a fantastic little piece about what people do with their money and what what the beauty that real estate gives you. We don't have to think about that kind of stuff. But if you were getting in the market today as a buyer or seller, one of the things we would look at is days on market. Now, days on market is basically, my system's always so funky with days on market. It's currently saying 61 days on market is what we were for the month of March. Now, this is probably going to go up about 3 or 4 days between now and the true end of March, which is in 4 days. So keep that in mind, but it has gone down. So in the month of February, we were at 69 days on market was our average. Now we're at 61, probably going to end up 63, 64, something like that.
It seems like we've had a little bit of pent up demand. People kind of holding their breath and waiting for the interest rates to change. And so maybe this is being reflected on people starting earlier.
Yeah, I mean, and you've gotten below 7%, right? So that's at least something that's happened for folks. I think what's also happening is really just people are getting accustomed to it.
Yeah.
They've been pent up for so long where now it's just like, look, I've got to do this. Yeah. My kids have been fighting, in our
sharing
3-bed
bedroom.
and I've got 3 kids now or whatever. Like life change that's happened in the last 3 years is, I think, adding to some of that that pressure to get out. So. Or get away. And also, you got jobs too. You have jobs asking folks to come back in the office, right? Still, or demanding, I should say, asking. They're bringing folks back to the office. And so folks that moved away during the pandemic into these more rural areas now have their commute again. And so I think that's a big part that we're seeing as well is the added commute and why they want to move back to the area.
We've had quite a few clients that was their reason
it's
for
all,
wanting to move.
I think that has to be a top 75% of folks we work with are usually, the commute is a very big deal to them. So, closed price to original price. So this is like, if they listed at 400K, did they actually sell for 400K? Did they sell for 395? Whatever. So,
and that's kind of a reflection of our sellers starting to get more realistic about pricing.
Yes. Well, and I think sellers, our realtors adjusting to the changes in the market. Is our realtors tracking this data effectively so that they can then communicate it to clients? And I think that's a big part of this conversation too. Because we need to track price decreases too, because I think that's been on the rise for sure in our MLSs. But we're at 98.1% for the month of March. So homes still sold, but below that. But that is up. So it was 97.2% in the month of February. So we are up on that. And last year it was 97.5%. So we're up on both of those. It's selling for higher, which means that, if you list it at 400K, it's not going to sell much. It's going to sell closer to that than it would have done a month ago, in the month of February, or a year ago. So good to know for homeowners.
So you don't have to put a whole bunch of wiggle room in your pricing. It's just price it where it needs to be priced.
It depends on you're getting pricing strategies now. So that for me, that's a pricing strategy conversation.
Gotcha.
How do you want to price it? Do you want to be the one that just sits and kind of what's your competition looks like? Do we need to undercut your competition so that you are the first one to be picked? That's we talk about that almost every other month in our seller episode. So make sure you check out how to sell your house episodes because that pricing is key to that conversation for sure. But for sure. So looking ahead at pendings to see what's coming down the pipe for us and see what's trending towards the month of, this is for March, and so trending towards the month of April. We have more pendings in the month of March than we did in February. So February was 2,004 pendings and March is 2,080 pendings. And again, that's 4 days to go. So things could still go in a contract between now and, Friday or whatever. But anyway, so that's good to know that there has been an increase in the amount of pendings. So we're looking April is probably, just based on this metric alone, going to be a slightly hotter, more active market than February was. So, or than March was, excuse me. So good to know. And then really, y'all, that's most of our data as far as the conversations about these two things go. When it comes to, well, we'll say this. There has been a lot of news in the real estate that happened in the month of March. If you haven't seen it, you're very lucky. If you haven't seen it, you're very lucky.
Yeah,
it's everywhere. The National Association of Realtors settled a lawsuit that had been going on for, I think, like the last 2 years, basically. It's been a long time coming. And they settled this lawsuit, and that's made headlines. It has broken through everything. And so before we wrap up and kind of talk about the best part of real estate, which is why we love it, we just want to address this and take a second to do so. And so I wrote up this little piece. I'm just going to read it very straightforward so that I don't say anything, crazy. But here, let me just read this. Let me read this to y'all. There's been a lot of misinformation, first and foremost, from media outlets to politicians and all levels of government regarding what is actually happening and what this actually means for you as a buyer or seller of real estate as a result of the National Association of Realtors settling their lawsuit. Okay, we hate this information to our very core. It drives us insane.
The faulty information.
It drives us insane. Yes, the faulty information drives us insane. And we want to speak out against it more than you could possibly know. But I've got to be really honest with every single person watching this. It's still really fresh. It's still really new. There is still a lot of unknown that we don't really know what exactly this is going to look like. There are a lot of ideas floating around for what it could look like and what it might look like for sure. But it is still really fresh. And so all that to say, we want you to know that for us, as people you watch and people you trust for this kind of information, we want you to know that we are speaking weekly with our brokerage leadership, who's speaking with the lawyer, his whole law team. We are talking with our lenders. We are talking with lawyers as well in the marketplace, and just seeing what is being talked about so we can be informed and we can still serve you to the level that we've always strived to do and always said that we would. We have a background. My mom is before real estate. Your background was in counseling and social work and serving people. My background was in ministry and mission work, and that's what we do. That's what it means for us to be Christian Berries. But for anybody on our team to be a realtor on the Christian Berry Group, it means that you're going to serve people to a really high level, and that's what we believe in. And so we want you to just know we're on top of this. We are very aware of this. Kind of have to be just with the news outlets. We are tracking on every podcast, every webinar that we possibly can to stay informed about what's coming the way this July when the changes really take effect, and the strategies that exist for our clients to be able to leverage themselves effectively in that environment. And so all of this to say, if you have questions, if this is something that's causing you concern, maybe you're somebody considering selling in the later half of the year and you're not sure what that's going to look like, know that we are always here to answer those questions for you. We are always here to help. Feel free to call, text, email, DM, whatever you got to do, comment, and we'll be glad to reach out or whatever. But just want you to know that we are here to have conversations if you want to talk about the things. But as far as a one-to-many kind of platform like this podcast is, we just want you to know that we're on top of this. We are aware, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that you are still set effectively when it comes to the changes.
Yeah. So. We're always going to be dedicated to making sure we understand the market and what's going on with the market enough so that you can get the best experience in your buy or your sell.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what's important.
That's what we do. So again, feel free to reach out. Any questions you have, we got your back. We'll tell you the stuff that we're hearing. Right. We'll have conversations about it.
It's still in process.
Yeah, it's still being figured out. So just know.
Bottom line is you can still buy a house. You can still sell a house. We can still help you.
That's not changing.
Nothing's changed in that world. So it's going to be fine.
Yep. All right, so to close out on the best news ever and my favorite thing to talk about and why it truly is always a good time to buy, because real estate's just a dang good asset, y'all. Dang good investment. When it comes to when it comes to the year 2014, in this area that we track, the average close price was $212,512, okay? In 2023, what closed out in 2023, it was $432,803. And so what this means is that real estate goes up. There was a year where it was basically flat. The appreciation outside of the COVID years, right? So we saw record appreciation during those times, but even outside of that, it ranges from 3 to 9%, but averages at 6%. It's a 6% return on the money that you put into it. And so you get the appreciation of it. And that's why conversations like we mentioned before about being cheaper to rent or buy, like there's always more to that story. And this is one of the biggest parts of that. You get appreciation. As you live in this home, this thing that you own, right? You make money doing so because real estate goes up in value. It's like stocks. It's like all the things.
Especially here, it's really
a hot market.
Big story here in DFW because 6% is above the national average.
And we're voted the second hottest market basically in the nation for what's going to be developing and people moving in and all that kind of stuff. And so it's a wild time to be in DFW, but it's a good time to be in DFW.
Yeah,
and it's a good time to be a homeowner in DFW. Yes. So know that's the best news we can possibly share with you, especially with all the craziness going on. So we got your back. We are here for you always. And we want you to know that we're on it, and you can rely on us, and we'll let you know that we started this podcast to keep folks informed about how to do DFW real estate well. And so we're going to keep you informed on how to do that. And we're going to share what we learn as it gets closer to so we know what's actually happening. We'll share that with you here for sure. So
absolutely.
Stay tuned. Keep updated, and we'll make sure we keep you updated.
We'll be in touch.
Okay. Thank y'all so much for joining us again for this week's market update for the month of March. We'll catch you back next week.
Thanks.
Hey, thank you so much for watching the podcast today. If this has been valuable for you at all, we sure could use your help getting the word out to more people. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, go ahead and give us a follow and consider taking just maybe 2 minutes to leave us a review. Both do wonders for our show with the algorithm, and on both platforms, all you gotta do, head over to our show page. On Spotify, hit 3 dots and select rate. And on Apple, all you gotta do is just scroll down to the show and say leave a review. So just click that. If you're seeing this on Facebook or Instagram, a like or comment puts all the good vibes out in the algorithm for us. And on YouTube, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can be notified whenever we post a new episode. Join us again next week for more Fort Worth housing news and updates. Until then, y'all have a great week.